Hello and welcome back to another exciting podcast of American Pylon. Will Mihal here, your host, joined by my counterparts James Thomas Fanning IV, Tyler Combs, and our producer there behind the cameras and behind the computer, making all this happen, David Grayson. We've got a lot to talk about today. I'm really excited for this podcast. We're going to break down the film that we saw at Georgia and Austin Peay, and then we're going to take a look at what to expect in the South Carolina game coming up this weekend. But before we get into all of that, I want to give a shout out to our newest partner, In We Go. For just $30 a month, In We Go gives you unlimited access to events in and around the city, now live in Atlanta, Phoenix, Denver, and Washington, D.C. So if you're like us and you like checking out different sporting events or breweries or festivals, whatever the case might be sure to check out In We Go. And now for a limited time, if you plug in the word Pylon into the promo box, you'll get $10 off your first month. So check them out, In We Go. All right, guys. Well, we're going to jump right into UGA football, and we're going to start off by talking about what we saw in the UGA versus Austin Peay game. Not the most exciting event out there. I know.
Hottest event.
Yeah, Tyler was there. It was something like 100 degrees. I think that's what it's supposed to feel like in the stadium.
It was warm.
I was enjoying the view from my couch. I was actually up in Greenville, South Carolina this past weekend.
Fun town.
Yeah, that is a fun town.
It was a good time, but a lot to cover and a lot to talk about. So I want to start off by looking at the positive. Who impressed you the most in this first game? I know we got to see a lot of different players on the field, which is always fun with games like this. But who would you say was a player that stood out to you more so than you thought?
Sure. I guess speaking of who all got to play, we had 22 freshmen play, which was fun. So kind of as we predicted in the last show, Jimmy and I were talking about it would be a disappointment if there's anything short of a blowout and a big win. So to Will's point, we saw a lot of players, a lot of guys play. The biggest takeaway for me, I guess, who impressed me the most, I have two, I guess, both on defense. I'm going to say Tyson Campbell, because right out of the gate, the kid got the start. Yeah. I think Jimmy predicted that a few episodes back of who might be the biggest impact or get the start first as a five-star freshman. And I think I had Brenton Cox. Jimmy had Tyson Campbell. And right out of the gate, Tyson Campbell got the start at cornerback opposite of DeAndre Baker, which is super exciting. That's I think that happened more because of, he was ready, but I guess more so because of the fact that Tyreek McGee, our other cornerback, returning starting cornerback, or one of them, contributors, he was injured and couldn't go, wasn't ready to play. But I think just being a true freshman right out of the gate in that heat, day one, first snap on defense. Yeah. Tyson Campbell shots up there, and also D'Angelo Gibbs.
I was going to say, I would argue that Campbell probably would have beat out McGee anyways.
You think so?
Well, it seemed like Webb kind of had more of an in on that position than McGee. And
that's fair.
He beat out
that also
Webb.
Surprised me. Yeah, Webb wasn't, I know he got in there, but he just,
after all we heard about him all off, I guess, it's, DeAndre Baker's not going to lose that spot, so you basically have a bunch of guys fighting for one spot, and I guess Campbell came in there and impressed everybody. But,
he was,
what did you see from Gibbs, though?
Gibbs, just the kid, it's okay, I was talking a lot there right out of the gate, but Gibbs, he just, we talked about it last week, is a lot of unknowns there as far as his off-season, I don't want to say antics, but just off-season
whatever it was.
We don't know what, we don't know injury, personal issues. We don't want to speculate and put the kid in a bad light. But he just wasn't around the team, wasn't enrolled in spring, I believe, didn't travel with the team the last 3 games. So it's important games of our season last year. Lost a little bit of weight, I think, is what they were reporting. Comes in, kind of has that second team star role, and he looked great. He was all over the field, fast, a lot of tackles. It was just impressive, I guess, in all of its context of being away from the program for that long and going in there and being trusted and thrust into that to help build depth and thrust into that secondary was also impressive. So
he's definitely a piece that if he settles into that star role, then it gives us a lot more versatility to move guys around elsewhere. And, play different guys at cornerback and play different packages and stuff. As far as who impressed me, I would say the single most impressive play was probably D-Rob's end around for the touchdown. He just kind of looked like he was shot out of a cannon for that. Nobody even touched him, but that was his only touch of the game. So however much you can take away from that. And then outside him, I would say James Cook was really fun to see. He's, he was exactly like we said. When he ran between the tackles, it was nothing really special. But when he got the ball in space, he was really fun to watch. And it's a bummer we're going to miss him the first half of next week because he got ejected with a dumb targeting penalty. Did you see it happen live?
Yep. The big hit, big boom. That was it was
the guy clearly called it fair catch, and he's just a freshman. Being a freshman, he's probably too hyped up for the first game. But so it stinks that we won't have him all of next week. But I am excited to see him come in 100% fresh in the second half.
I was gonna say the biggest thing about that is the fresh legs.
Yeah, exactly.
So that plays into that depth role for next week, which I guess we'll get into in a little bit. But yeah,
but those would probably be my two, newcomers at least. That were the most impressive.
Sure. What about Fromm?
I just don't really feel like we saw him. I mean, Fields was 7 for 8, so that was fun to see.
Yep.
He had the touchdown to Nauta.
Sure
right?
did.
I just don't. I mean, we beat that team. We were just so much better than them. It was pretty vanilla. I think we put Fields out there to show what he could do to force South Carolina to prepare for him.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably they let him do a little more than maybe they even wanted to, but they want South Carolina to be aware. But Fromm didn't really get to show us that much. I'm really excited to see him this week. I think he's going to do a good job. But
I guess he had that one pass. So we had no drops. I realized also. I watched it a few times because I had some time on my hands this week. I watched it a few times. We had no dropped passes. That's encouraging. Yeah, we had that one. It was kind of a delayed comeback route that Fromm threw late to Tyler Simmons. Okay. So we didn't convert on that first third down conversion, I guess, to keep marching. Settled for a field goal for our first score. But no drops. So that's super encouraging. That'll build confidence. Granted, we'll play better competition, but that always helps.
But I mean, drops are more like self-imposed.
Definitely.
So if guys, if they're not dropping balls against Austin Peay, there's no reason they should be dropping them against SEC opponents.
Yep, that's a very good point.
That's kind of all on you. So that is a good something you can take away from a nothing opponent like that, is we're not shooting ourselves in the foot.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to take a look and see. I mean, Demetrius Robinson obviously came in as advertised. It was exciting to watch him, so I'll definitely echo Jim's sentiments on that. But I do want to touch on some things that we maybe looked at and weren't as impressed by.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think as fans and people who want to see us crush an opponent like that, to see what we look forward to, let's be honest, with real opponents to come.
Yep.
What did you guys see that might have been a little bit more concerning?
Yeah,
when watching that game.
Sure. So at the game it was funny. After rewatching it on TV, I didn't really observe this, but watching it live at the game in Sanford Stadium, I noticed our defensive line offensive line did not get that big of a push. I thought that was a little surprising, and I don't want to say alarming, but it's just playing against competition like that and having 4 or 5 returning starters, and just seeing us steamroll over teams, albeit it was a shootout like Oklahoma, going toe-to-toe with Alabama, still getting movement, seeing those explosive run plays, like versus Auburn the second time around. Like, we just played quality opponents last year, albeit with different backs, but with that quality of offensive line and who you're playing, in an opponent as Austin Peay, I want to see more of a push. I want to see more violent. I want to see more explosive runs.
Yeah.
And we saw, D-Rob had his, it was all to the outside. I think what I'm saying is, I guess, it's in between tackle,
we didn't run
explosive
between the
runs.
tackles.
And that's what I want to see, because we are going to play bigger and better and faster competition. Teams are going to stack the box against us because that's our bread and butter. That's what we want to go with until they make us throw. But that just that was disappointing against that level of competition. I want to see us absolutely own it and destroy and be overwhelmingly dominant in the trenches. And I didn't come away feeling that confident with our offensive line, which is what I've been preaching and relying on for us carrying us.
Yeah, that's definitely a position group that I think we were basically the most excited about on the team. I would say in the same vein, the defensive line wasn't as dominant. Not that we had expected them to be dominating necessarily, because we lost some good guys, but I think right there at that zero technique, we've talked about all offseason. We didn't really know who was going to replace John Atkins. Rochester, I believe,
Julian, he was in there.
Got the first snaps at it, and from what I saw watching it, it didn't seem like he was dominating or anything. You've heard the knock on him that he kind of takes plays off sometimes, and Kirby's kind of called him out, said we were kind of playing soft along the defensive line. Sure. So definitely need to get some guys to step up. And John Atkins was just he very rarely got pushed back, and he really bought into that role of like his job was just to absorb blocks and free up Roquan. So I think you have to be very mature to play that position. You have to be very selfless to play that position, and we'll see.
Yeah. I also, it was odd to watch, I guess. It was odd to watch no Roquan out there. It's like getting used to a whole other team. That felt off, because you don't have this guy who you would watch a play and say, okay, Roquan would have erased that. He would have overran our other linebacker and made that tackle, and just that little 4-yard scamper would have been just a 1-yard gain, So it was hard to adjust to seeing maybe some slower guys in the second half of I guess that front seven or linebackers. Also, I thought the outside linebackers didn't contain as much. I thought they kind of Austin Peay was able to get out there on the outside, throw some quick passes, which I'm sure enough I'm seeing it. I know other coaches are seeing it. I know our coaches are seeing it to correct that. But I just thought we did not contain well on the edge.
Yeah,
watching the replay.
I guess the only thing I would say about that is they ran the ball so much. They only attempted a few passes. So maybe I guess if you just keep chipping away at it, even if you're so much more talented than the other team, a few are going to break through.
Sure.
But that was another thing that we talked about, was a kind of our concern. I think I mentioned it for when we play Auburn, which is a ways down the road, but who is going to contain the edge? Because, I mean, honestly, Bellamy and Carter didn't do a particularly good job of it last year.
They didn't do a consistent job.
Yeah, consistent is a better word than good. But they were obviously the best. They were on the field, so they were the best guys out there. So it's like, who's gonna? I think Cox is gonna do a good job eventually, but he's a freshman.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think we're uber talented at the linebacker position, especially outside linebacker. With Cox there, I guess with inside too, with Tyndall and Quay Walker sitting there ready to get the start. I guess think they have to get it between the ears first. But I mean, I know we're deep and we're talented and we have experience. We have all of that there. It's just got to click. And I mean, first week, I know, like a lot of guys have said, you can't read too much into this game. We were very vanilla on offense and defense, and these are just gripes. I mean, we won 45-0. We held the team to 0 points, 91 rushing yards. What do we really have to complain about? I understand that, but there's just certain things you expect and you want to see that we've been hyped up about, and when you don't see that overwhelmingly happen versus that kind of opponent, it's only going to get harder.
I would say, like, if Juwan Taylor's, nothing against Juwan Taylor, but if he's still starting like late into the year, that's a little bit concerning to me.
That's fair. I also could say to that point, I could see Natrez Patrick getting the start. I'm going to say this week. He's kind of a thicker, bigger guy, so he's not going to be in that spread him out offense, hurry up offense, which is what South Carolina wants to run. But in that kind of environment, I could see us leaning more towards that leadership and experience in Natrez Patrick over the Juwan Taylor, who may have a little bit more speed and can cover a few more guys. But I could see him start to dwindle out as experience is needed in more hostile, more important games.
Yeah, so I think like Monty Rice would be the guy that you really, for whatever reason, he's not doing something to be a starter right now. But
Rice got the start.
Well, yeah, I guess, but he rotated in with the other players, and so he wasn't like always on the field the way Roquan was, and you kind of read that he's the closest thing physically we have to Roquan. So there's something they don't trust him with, whether it's certain situations or they feel like they need to talk to him every once in a while or whatever. But he's the guy you kind of hope gets it between the. I think we have tons of talent. It's guys getting it between the ears that is going to be the limiting factor in whether this defense is good or great.
I guess we're going to have to get used to not having the guy, the alpha male, the dude at linebacker. This is going to. But I mean, it may be several, and it might not be as obvious to us as fans watching the games because it might be more spread out. One guy one week, one guy the next. Like that overarching, he's the guy we look to, and I can live with that. That's fine with me because I would look and say that's more of the Bama role, not influence, but that's kind of their way. They don't have one particular superstar ever. I feel like
Kirby's the guy.
Yeah, I mean,
we have Kirby.
So I mean,
that's the biggest thing I feel good about.
You still want superstars that makes it fun, but I think I trust Kirby enough, and I'm okay with with everybody, with Mel Tucker and them to make sure that we are going to put the right guys in the right place and the correct people, regardless of if it's a superstar.
It is a bummer missing Roquan though, because there's definitely plays, and I think we'll see more and more of them throughout the season where it'll be like the other team. It's like a 4-yard run, which is everybody does their job. Nobody does anything wrong. We make the tackle, and it's like, wow, Roquan. That would have been a 1-yard run if Roquan was here.
That's how you become a legend too.
Yeah, it's like the other guys. They didn't make a bad read. They didn't take a bad angle. They diagnosed it as fast as they could, and they got there as fast as they could, and they didn't do anything wrong, but they're not Roquan.
Yeah, we can live with that. I mean, again, if we win every game like that, so that's just reality this year.
Yeah. But I mean, I do want to bring it back to your original concerns. I mean, Tyler, you cited the offensive line, Jimmy the defensive, and Kirby was quoted as saying in an interview on Monday that we've just got to have some more explosive runs. Now, looking at the stats, they had 284 yards on 33 attempts. Now, that's slightly misleading because you had the jet sweep from Demetrius Robinson, and then they had another one that was for 19 yards, right? So you got to factor that in. But at the same time, they had 12 attempts less than their average game, and they had fewer attempts on the run behind the line than any game they had in 2017. So do you think the way that we're looking at this is kind of like this might be a little nitpicky, or do you think there are legitimate concerns going forward into a game like South Carolina that, hey, we don't expect it to be as explosive as it was last year, but we're nowhere near where we want it to be?
That's hard. I mean, I think week one is always tough to gauge because some teams will look explosive. Like look at Ohio State. I mean, they're playing an FBS opponent and they look right out of the gate exciting. You know, they're winning the big. Then you see us playing against that team. Granted, we still won big, played well. It just wasn't what we wanted to see. It's hard. I'm gonna attribute it to maybe we're just not clicking yet. The gears aren't turning just yet. Granted, we're going to need them to be really quickly here in week 2 versus South Carolina. I would say, and I've gone back and forth on this, we were being very vanilla on offense, but it doesn't get any more vanilla than running between the tackles.
Yeah,
and then hitting the gap and going, and we just didn't see that. So we just got to get it rolling. I'm sure, playing that level of opponent, not that this should take into account, because I think you should play to a standard, not to an opponent, and I think Kirby preaches that. But it's kind of hard to get it for Austin Peay, so I'm just hoping it was, this week it will be jacked up. It's SEC play. Yep. I can feel it. I'm a little more excited. So I'm hoping it's just more contributed to, first game jitters, getting the gears moving, getting the feel for, some of those running backs. And also, and I read this, and I did kind of observe it in watching it again, too. A lot of our backs did bounce outside a lot. They did not really stick to their lanes. They weren't as patient enough. And maybe that was them relying on their athleticism versus a lesser opponent, thinking, I don't have to push myself up into that. I can kick it outside, run around, and beat him with my speed. So we did see a lot when we exposed them on the edge as well. So we have that speed, but... Yeah, we
have that speed, but the SEC defenses we play are going to be a lot faster too. So I would hope that that's something we're addressing in film this week and saying you got to be a little bit more patient. Than that, because it is. With Nick and Sony, we almost got numb to the fact that Sony averaged 8 yards a carry. It's like anytime he took the ball on first down, you were more than likely going to have second and short. It's crazy. And like the Oklahoma game and the Kentucky game kind of stick out to me for whatever reason. It was just those two are rushing. It was a 12-yard rush, 13-yard rush, 18-yard rush, 40-yard touchdown. It was like, so I think we do, that was a major. We were one of the most efficient and one of the most explosive offenses in the country last year, and I think that.
And that's the thing too is I think our last memories of Georgia football, albeit the very last one was kind of sour, but our offense was it was so exciting. It was big play after big play, big run after big run, and then we're kind of dialing it back to early football FCS opponent.
So the question now is, were we so explosive last year because the offensive line was that good and it's going to take a little time to gel, but hopefully we'll be that good again, or were we that good because Nick and Sony were so patient and had such good vision, and we maybe just don't have guys that have that much experience, have that much.
I'd say the answer is always in the middle there, right?
Yeah, that's probably true.
I still lean. Granted, a great running back can help a team, but I think a good offensive line, a strong offensive line can help mend a lot of issues. It can help.
Yeah.
It can help a mediocre running back be a great running back. If they open up a big hole and you're a smaller scat back and you can get through there, that's to your offensive line.
Yeah.
So,
but I think
a little bit of both.
Getting to the linebackers is basically on the offensive line, and then after that, it's on the running back.
Yeah.
So I would argue that having more explosive plays means that the offensive line did their job, but once you get past about 5 yards, you're going to be running past your blockers. And then it's just you in the open field.
Yeah.
So,
I want to say last year it took our offensive line some time to gel. We were still mixing and matching throughout the year, but we were still so explosive early on. And again, this where we are nitpicking because we won 45-0. We had the yards. I think we're just getting hung up on maybe we didn't see everything. We weren't as confident and as explosive as we wanted us to be, and that may be us, me, some people being selfish and like. 45-0 isn't enough. I want it to be 80-yard runs.
It is silly.
But I think that says a lot about where Georgia football is as a program and where Kirby's brought us and the talent that he's brought in. I think it says so much about where the fan base's expectations are, which is great to have in Athens. Again, we come back to it a lot, and I don't want to slight Mark Richt. I'm a fan of him as a leader of men, so to speak. But I think in this case in point, Kirby has instilled this. To your point, training up to a standard, not to opponent. So I think that we have these expectations and that we're breaking it down like this says a lot about where we are as a player.
Yeah, I guess
I agree.
It's bleeding over to the fans, right? We're hungry. I want to see this level of execution. I like that,
No.
Kirby's got me trained.
It's exciting. And Tyler and I were kind of joking about it. Like, I was laughing at myself because we spent 7 months just being like, I want Georgia football, I want Georgia football, and then it comes and it's like the second quarter and you're like, okay, now I want SEC football.
Yep.
It's like we're all just being greedy Georgia fans. But speaking of Mark Richt, not to bash Mark Richt, but I definitely had some Mark Richt Georgia team flashbacks watching him play. against LSU of just
that was ugly.
Showing up to a big primetime game where you're favored and you're ranked higher and just kind of laying an egg. Yep. I mean, I don't know. That was a bummer to watch.
It was just a bad showing all around for Miami. I don't think that there's any excuse around
good.
that. So, I mean, and to be honest, I was thinking about the game coming up this weekend, and I couldn't help but think that if Mark Richt was still at the helm, we might be in that same position going into this weekend.
This game has like vibes of that, with the exception of now we have Kirby, which hopefully will be the big difference maker. It has vibes of that 2012 game where we were ranked number 6, and that was a night game, so we got lucky to escape a night game here. But they beat us 35-7. I mean, they were up 21-0 in the first quarter. We never had a chance.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that.
Yeah, we are going to get into that. But one last point, we do want to address this. Obviously, we talked about it in past podcasts. The quarterback controversy. Is there one? Is there not one? It seemed as though going into this game that it was going to be decided that they were going to have a number 1 guy. Mm-hmm. But we did see Fromm leave the game a little bit earlier than we would have expected. Selfishly, I like to see Fields out there just to see what he can do. But what do you guys think? I mean, is that any sign of a controversy, him coming in earlier than expected?
I don't think it's any sign of a controversy. I think they knew it was basically a scrimmage, and they wanted to get both guys reps against the other team's number 1 guys just to see how it would go. I am curious to see how it'll go this week. I think they wanted to put Fields out there so that South Carolina would have some film on him to say, okay, they're going to let him throw the ball, they're going to let him run. His first play, he tucked and ran. He ran a guy.
His first 5 dropbacks.
Yeah,
he tucked and ran.
They pulled him over the sideline. They're like, Justin, do less. Don't get hurt against Austin Peay.
Oh yeah, when you ran over those 2 guys.
Yeah, it's like we know you can run the ball. You don't have to do it when we're already up 21-0. But I am curious to see if it'll be the same thing where he comes in like the second quarter in a scripted drive, or if they were more just putting film out there to take practice time away from for South Carolina.
It's a chess match.
I don't feel great.
Could have a play or 2 in this game.
I was gonna say I don't feel great about this pick. Like I think you could argue it either way, but I'll just go on record saying I don't think that Fields is gonna play just to go out there and be gimmicky and stuff. I think we're gonna be pretty conservative, and I think it's gonna be Fromm's game. And if it's a tight game, I don't, unless maybe like a really short goal line or something.
Sure.
But I don't see entire scripted drives for Fields the way we did in Austin Peay.
I was duped last week because I went on and said, from reading Kirby's comments about we have no plans to run 2 QBs, we don't have a situational quarterback, we're just going to go with the guy, and then if the game gets in hand, we'll have our next guy. And we never actually officially announced the starter. They just trotted Fromm out there. Yeah. So we're keeping it very vague, keeping it close to the vest, which I like. I like Kirby controlling the narrative there,
Kirby's
not giving anybody.
Chess.
But it was interesting because Fields comes in, we're up 17-0. Fields game isn't really in hand. I don't think anyone would say. I mean, we're 1 turnover away ourselves, or a muffed punt, or something happening, a kickoff return, or whatever, to being right back into a good ball game. And here comes Fields trotting out, which was exciting as a fan. Selfishly, that's what you want to see. I will say I thought it was interesting. This is what I'm going to go with. My conspiracy theory is how eerily similar was it to last year's quarterback situation where Fromm comes in the 3rd drive to replace Eason, albeit Eason got injured.
Injury,
But Fields was almost thrust into not the same situation, but thrust into the same time period of like, hey, this is exactly what happened to us last year, week 1 versus a lesser opponent. Are you prepared? Are you ready? Not that they were testing them. They're testing, but it wasn't like a let me shock you factor to Fields, but I think it was this happened to us last year. We're going to put you out there, and this is exactly what it felt like. Like Fromm, this is what it felt like for Eason to have to sit back and watch due to whatever, and Fields, this is what it feels like to be put into a situation and maybe have to take over a team and can you rise to the occasion? Can you do it? So I thought that was a oddly similar timing as far as game timing goes. So when Fields came in and when Fromm came in last year.
I think that they wanted to get him in there in a situation where the game wasn't out of hand yet, so they would have some experience in it mattering. Sure. Even though they knew they're going, it's a bad team and we're going to beat them no matter what. I think.
I mean, it was. I don't think we're in a true 2 quarterback system. I just think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I've seen some people kind of post that and share that. I think we're not. Kirby's not owning up to it. We're not really saying it's a 2 quarterback system, but it is. And I still think this is Fromm's team. He has the most rapport with those guys, wide receivers. That is, he knows the offense. He's mastered the offense. And same thing, like we just said about Natrez being maybe getting the start this week at inside linebacker because of the experience and stuff. That at South Carolina this week is going to be raucous. It's going to be loud. Yeah. We're going to rely on the veteran guy, like Jimmy said, unless if it's close, I don't want to say Fromm's not or Fields is not going to play, but
I think he'll get to play, but I mean, I guess what I didn't do a good job of saying earlier, but I think in the SEC games, if Fields comes in, it'll be for like one play, like on a 3rd and short or something, but he's not going to get full series. And if he does come in for full series, then that'll mean that Fromm is totally done for the day. We're not rotating guys. It'll be because the game's out of hand.
I'm hoping
over.
that is the case.
And then I could see against the other opponents that we know we're going to win pretty much no matter what, like MTSU, and then we play UMass. Maybe they'll rotate him a little more to get Fields a little more of the true game day experience.
Yeah,
but I would say that it's Fromm's
still
team
Fromm's
right
team.
now. Yeah,
I agree.
And Fromm played great, so there's nothing to look at and say that we didn't like about him.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about the game coming up this Saturday between UGA and South Carolina. But before we do that, I want to give a shout out to Ed Freeman State Farm. If you're like me and you're accident prone, then you're also probably like me and you seek out the best coverage. That's why we all rely on Ed Freeman State Farm. So I've said it before, and I will say it again. Ed Freeman is the best agent in the state, if not the macro galaxies.
Oh, is that a real word now?
I don't check that, but we're going to assume that it is. So if you've got a car, a boat, a life, or a house, check out Ed Freeman State Farm for all your insurance coverage needs. So looking ahead to this Saturday, what everybody's really looking forward to, I think probably one of the better games this weekend, if I'm honest, at least within the SEC. I can't say that I'm not a little bit nervous for this game coming up, but I want to hear from you guys. What do we see for the Dogs this Saturday? We talked a little bit about Fields. Do you see him coming in and playing? What's your take on this game?
Sure. I mean, ruckus environment, like we said. I mean, we've gone into South Carolina in the past with the better team and come away and lost.
Yeah,
Fun fact,
times.
I did not know this. The 5 meetings that both teams have gone and ranked, South Carolina and Georgia have been ranked. Georgia is 0-5.
Really?
Yeah. Now, not that matters, and I think to kind of talk to Will's point that he's nervous. We have a kind of the fan base split of a little bit of nervousness from the Rick years and stuff, and then a little bit of confidence. People are saying, this is Georgia, this is Kirby. We've arrived. We should take care of business.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Kirby on this because we seem to approach games in a very business-like manner. We don't chirp, we don't talk. There's very little self-expression from our team. They're always, we don't listen to their trash talk or some of the bulletin board material they provided us this week or this year, and then the off season. But excuse me. But I don't know. This year is different. Every year is its own year. So I don't want to look back and say just because we've been ranked, every time we've both been a ranked match, we were 0-5 or we've lost the last 3 of the 4 in Williams-Brice. I
think that's right.
I want to erase all that. I mean, this is a different year. I mean, Kirby's won 2 in a row, but that doesn't even matter. Also, it goes up there and it matters what we do Saturday. We're better on paper. I think we're more talented. I think we're better coached. We've played in bigger games. I think we're deeper. All that being said, I think this is their Super Bowl, right? This is our cause to worry. It's the first SEC opener for both teams, and it's just the winner of this game controls the East and really marches on to Atlanta. So and controlling your own destiny is a huge thing, especially in the SEC and in college football, when win you lose matters. So getting it out of the way early, beating your biggest opponent is huge. So, I mean, loud environment is their Super Bowl. And it's early. I mean, we've talked about. I've been worried about this game because they have this senior quarterback. They got Deebo Samuels. They got Brian Edwards. They got Rico Dowdle. They look good. They got a new offense. Brian McClendon, who was their offensive coordinator this year. They were their wide receivers coach last. Wide receivers coach last year. So there's some familiarity there with our offense on their side now. So it's just there is definitely some pieces there that make me worried.
That's a good point. But to that, I would say I wouldn't think that they would take time away from their offensive coordinator game planning their offensive game just to be like, oh, what do you remember about Georgia's offense to help our defense?
Well, that would go for their defensive, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe they did it in the offseason and stuff, but now that it's game week, I would think McClendon is 100% dialed in on being South Carolina's OC. I don't think they're pulling him into defensive meetings and being
maybe not now. No, I think they've definitely use that. I mean, team swaps film regardless. Team swaps. They share film as a courtesy. But
I think this game is. I mean, it's definitely the trendy pick right now for the upset because of the history and for whatever reason, they're kind of like this season's like off-season SEC East darling, which Tennessee was last year, and then they went 0-8 in the SEC. So I'll say that. But I think at the end of the day, the reason I feel good about it, we have the better team and we have the better coach. So if we only had one of those two, then I think their home field advantage is substantial. I think that's a pretty underrated place to be an away team, because I've been there before and it's loud and it's a tough place to play, but better players, better coaches.
Sure.
What else is there?
I just think, playing there, loud, obviously, in most cases, I think people would say if you play a close game to a lesser team, that gives them more confidence, and that's fair. But I would say our talent and our depth will take over. If we play a close game, and I think it'll be very physical, and I think it will be close to the end, that bodes well for us, because at the end of the day, I don't care what heat it is or where you're playing at, our talent is deeper than theirs. Our tape,
that's the thing. And it's going to be so hot. If we play close,
we wear them out. Those guys are going to come in, and our second string, not that we're playing second string versus second string, but they are better. We can wear them out, and we can afford to take those blows and take those punches. We can't let it get out of hand like Auburn last year. We can't allow us to get penalties, drop the muff punts. We can't do. We can't shoot ourselves in the foot and get down, because then the crowd will definitely get behind them. But the longer it drones on, I think the better that is for us.
Yeah, I agree. I think some big things for us, I'd like to get the ball first and start the game with like a 7-minute, 12-play drive.
Do you remember last year's start of the game?
Where Terry Godwin fumbled?
Onside kick. They came out of the gate, onside kick.
Oh, yeah.
They recovered it, went downfield. They had like a 4th and 3, 4th and 4 on like the 40. Just had to kick the field goal and missed it. Or no, maybe they made it, but that was that to me was just okay, they were just trying to maintain and keep. They weren't there to we came out ready for blood.
That's definitely like a home team thing to do, though, because it's like, well, if we get it,
I don't expect that.
Yeah, I don't expect that, because it's like if we get it, then our home crowd is going to go insane, and if we don't, then it'll quiet down. But it's not like they have enough people here to give them energy. But if we did an onside kick and then they got it, So I think I'd like to see a drive that's kind of a crowd killer, like right off the bat, just like a slow, methodical drive where we kind of grind it out. And then the biggest thing to me is turnovers, because as we were talking about before the podcast, it sounds silly to say because it's so obvious, but when there's an obvious talent gap, great quarterback play or poor quarterback play can kind of be the big equalizer. Mm-hmm. So I think if Fromm has a real off day, or if our running backs put the ball on the ground, and then Bentley plays really well, it's definitely a losable game.
Sure.
But so those would be the biggest thing. And then I think, like you said, it's going to be so hot that our depth is better than theirs, and then arguably our second best running back is going to be 100% fresh in the second half. So I think that's going to be huge. I think he's going to have hopefully some pretty big runs.
So you'd put Cooks over Holyfield at this point?
I don't think we've seen enough of either one, but I think the coaches are more excited to get Cook more touches than Holyfield. Mm-hmm. They seem. I know we like Holyfield, and obviously, like any guys on the team, you're going to root for them because they're playing for the red and black, and it's fun to root for those guys. But the coaches, to me, seem like they think Herring and Holyfield are just kind of running backs. Like they don't.
Interesting. See, I have more faith. I feel like they have a better feeling of Holyfield than that.
You think?
I think so.
Holyfield's touchdown run was nice.
It looked good. He broke a lot of tackles.
Really good footwork.
Some sloppy tackling, good lateral movement. But I think they have a lot more confidence in him because, again. Over his history, he was either been injured, then he came back, then he got in trouble. Yeah. And haven't seen enough of him, and now that he's getting getting ramped up and getting to be the dude.
I've never been in the coach's room or anything, but to me, just the situations the situations they give, who they give the ball to, and what situation and stuff, just to me seems like Holyfield and Herring are guys that it's like they're probably going to do the right thing. They're probably not going to fumble 3 yards in a cloud of dust. We can trust them as being upperclassmen, whereas Cook is. They're excited to get Cook the ball to see what he can do.
I think he offers the most excitement for sure. And
you could argue they're barely. They're both technically running backs, but it's like they're not going to be stealing touches.
Not
from
the same
each other.
Type, yeah, not the same type of situational guy.
I had the same kind of thought as Tyler did about Holyfield's run. It's only one run, obviously, but what it made me think about is, you know how big he was looking in those pictures in offseason, but I felt like Nick Chubb, same kind of guy gets touted for his size, was one of those running backs that just, I don't know if he was so ingrained with the run downhill thing that you kind of learn in high school, like keep going forward. Mm-hmm. And he, to watch Holyfield with his size, to not be afraid to take that lateral move to get around to it. I was like, oh man, if he could mix, both of those.
And I think he has it. That's why I think he's getting a little more love from the coaching staff than what Jimmy's giving him credit for. Not saying Jimmy's not getting him love. I think there are two different kind of backs, and I think we just saw a glimpse of the full tool set that Holyfield had.
So, and they could complement each other really well, because if we get a pretty good dose of Swift and Holyfield in the first half to where they're defense is just kind of tired out because it's a real physical game, and then coming into the second half,
sucker
it's
out
like,
the cooks.
Here's some lightning. Good luck. Like,
no, I'm
that would be
excited.
fun. Yeah.
No, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. Something certainly to look forward to. A game that we're all, really pumped about. But South Carolina is going to have some things to look forward to exploit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest thing outside of their control, but something that's going to play a factor, and we've already talked about it, is their fan base. How loud that stadium can be. We mentioned the heat. Things that are not necessarily under their control, but will certainly play a factor. But what between the lines is going to make a difference for them that they are going to look to exploit on the field?
I think you got to go Debo Samuels.
Yeah, and I was going to say Bentley, but those are one and the same.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna live and die off of that connection.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna do everything they can to get Samuel away from DeAndre Baker.
Mm-hmm.
And our scheme is not one that we wouldn't just put Baker on Samuels and have him follow him around. So I think they'll be doing certain formations to try and get those mismatches. That's the thing that worries me the most.
Yeah, I think our young secondary is uber talented again. I think we're starting to see we have a little more depth there than maybe we originally thought with trotting out a true freshman and Tyson Campbell as a cornerback. But yeah, I think we have J.R. Reed back there at safety. We have our All SEC cornerback at DeAndre Baker. Mm-hmm. But like Jimmy said, we don't play that scheme of defense where we are going to have our number one corner DeAndre Baker shadow their number one receiver Debo Samuels. We're going to just play our guys and I forget what they call it. I think match rip, I think is what they call it. I can't recall. Anyway, but we don't play that style of defense to match 1-on-1s, 2v2s. But I guess I could see them trying to match up Debo with Tyson Campbell and that weaker, inexperienced, maybe Richard LeCount too, albeit experienced or talented. I could see them trying to swing it out to them, get them to make decisions because this will be Tyson Campbell's second college game playing.
And I wonder if he. We haven't heard anything to say that he won't, but I wonder it'd be interesting to see if he does get the start because it'd be funny if not funny, but interesting to see if Kirby, maybe goes with Webb.
Oh, that's good. I didn't think about that. Yeah, but to me, I would say it's funny because he's a true freshman second star, but I would say Tyson Campbell was a better matchup against Debo Samuels because he has albeit if it doesn't, he has the best tools to handle and to help shut down Debo Samuels than Mark Webb does.
I definitely agree with that.
I think Mark Webb is physical. I just don't know that he is the big, lanky, tall, reaching, rangy kid.
I think if
Tyson
they both have a similar grasp of the playbook, and Campbell is more of a cover corner and Webb seems to be a little bigger, then Campbell would be the play. I'm just thinking more if he goes with like talent versus experience.
Yeah. I don't know because we saw experience didn't really help us last year.
I come back to that every time that last play of the national championship.
Yeah, sorry guys, but that was we're over it. We swear. I guess obviously senior quarterback Jake Bentley, smart guy, he's playing at home. The good
senior?
thing,
I thought he was Easton's age.
I thought he was a senior. I think
this
was last year. Maybe I'm wrong. How about this? He's an experienced guy coming back. I think this is at least his third year in the system. It's that's difficult, and they run the hurry up now, like we said before, with Brian McClendon. So they're spicing it up a little bit. That could pose challenges.
But the hurry up when it's that hot, if you do a couple 3 and outs, and then say like they start up the ball, they go 3 and out with their hurry up, and it's a 45-second drive, and then Georgia has a long extended drive, and then
defense can be gassed.
come. Yeah, that's the thing. If you're not scoring points to allow your defense a little bit of wiggle room because they're going to get tired. That's a dangerous game to play against an offense like ours in the heat.
Yeah, I think the offense like theirs now, they're going to require us to play that nickel star dime package where we're going to have to be rotating like a William Poole and D'Angelo Gibbs and even a Walter Grant out there to guard that slot receiver or that wide receiver, and that's just going to be. It's going to be a tall task for us to put up with all game long. I feel like because we are thin yet talented. Again, but that's. I think they can certainly see that on film, and I can just see them definitely. I agree with you. 3 and outs like happens to Auburn a lot. You see with that kind of offense is it can weigh your defense down, and you get in shootouts. And I trust us in a shootout. I just that's it's young secondary. They have talent. They have 2 very talented receivers, a good running back, and a very experienced quarterback at home. That's going to be tough. Granted, I know that makes it sound like I'm not confident. I am confident about this game, but that's just where I can see them definitely exploiting us. They're going to play to their strengths. And kind of going back to last week also, where I saw us kind of losing the edge on defense. I can see them, trying.
I think they're going to look to pass first, though, just with who their playmakers are, and they haven't had a lot of success rushing the ball against us in the last 2 years.
Sure.
They got like under 100 yards total in the last 2 games.
Well, speaking of that, Jonathan Ledbetter we read earlier today or yesterday, he had he sprained his ankle in practice. He's been wearing an air cast. They said he's on the good side of questionable, so they think he will play. Whatever that means, read into that what you will. But our starting defensive end, Jonathan Ledbetter, kind of seen as the voice and the leadership of the defense.
Yeah.
Was looking at as questionable, I guess, for the biggest game of the season yet.
If he didn't, would Hayes replace?
I think it'd be Hayes.
I didn't really notice Hayes on Saturday.
Malik Herring. I didn't either. I kept seeing he's number 7. I kept seeing big number 7 down there, and I was like, "Who the hell is that?" And I was like, "No, that's Jay Hayes."
Yeah, I knew who he was. I was like aware that he was on the field. I just didn't see him do.
Yeah.
And it was only the first game or whatever. But when you have a grad transfer that you know for a fact is one and done, and you're using a scholarship on him, you hope he comes in and makes an immediate impact. So it's not like we're going to write him off or anything.
Right. No, I think it's Jay Hayes and David Marshall and then Malik Herring are the 3 that'll file in line behind Ledbetter if he can't go. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, if we're coming down to predictions here in this game, I want to know what you guys think the score is going to be. I don't even know what the line is in this game, but
it's 9.5.
Yeah, but we opened at 10, moved to 9.5. They give you a 3 being at home, so that tells me what 2 touchdown favorites almost, essentially.
Yeah. I think 14 points on a neutral field would be pretty fair.
So I'm
gonna.
I had 24-13.
I'm gonna stick with. I had on an earlier podcast. I think it'll be a 1-score game at halftime, and I think our depth will just kind of let us push. So I'm gonna say like 17-10 at halftime, and I'm gonna say like 31-13 for the final score. But I think we're going to cover.
13. See, I was going to give us... I think they were going to give up more than that.
13 might be kind of low because that would only have them scoring 3 points in the second half. But I think that they're covering at halftime and we cover at the end of the game.
Okay.
I'll say that.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty broad. I'm kind of hedging my bets here.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not going to put hard numbers on
I'm going back and forth on this, and I keep the number I keep thinking of is 30. Can we score over 30 points this week? Because last week didn't really, I mean, we did it, but it didn't really instill confidence that, we can do it consistently like we seemed to do last year. I think we can get down to the red zone a pretty good bit and settle for some field goals. So I'm going to go 27-17. UGA.
Okay. Got the half-point cover?
Yeah.
27-17.
27-17. That's what I think.
We'll tweet out these predictions and see how we do next week.
Yeah.
I wish we had Vegas Eric on the podcast with his FAU to cover against Oklahoma.
Yeah, ouch. Took a bath on that
I texted him. He's like, swing and a miss. Can't
so we have 27-17 for Tyler, and Jim said 31.
I said 31-13.
31-13.
But I'm going to move that to 31-17. Actually,
okay.
Yeah, because I think that three points in the second half is a little too few.
Sure, I would love to see it. Don't get me wrong.
What'd you have? 27-14.
I had 24.
24.
13.
Okay, I think
24-13.
I think that
I was kind of conservative.
That's more realistic.
In that estimation,
I want to say.
But
well, last year, I mean, with the offense we had last year in Game 7, or was it Week 7 in Game 7?
It was the first week in November.
We were moving. I mean, we knew what we were at that point, and they made us slug it out, man. I mean, and they controlled the ball.
They did. I mean, Godwin did fumble in the 5-yard line, so like that was at least 3 points.
Sure,
could have been,
that's fair.
Could have been 7. So, and I don't know. I think that I've read this. I don't know how true it is, but the Kirby and Muschamp are pretty close. So Kirby's not. If he feels comfortable with the way the game's trending, he's not going to run it up on his friend.
Yeah,
I hope he does.
But it was a 10-point game last year. That's pretty close for Kirby to be.
It felt close.
Back
that game felt.
So I don't know how much I
aggravating.
believe that narrative.
Yeah, I've talked a lot of trash, so I'm really hoping they can just absolutely the score.
Oh yeah.
There's a guy in my office that didn't go to South Carolina, but somehow found himself as a fan of South Carolina, which I don't know how that happens.
Why would you do that?
I don't know.
They never win.
But
they never win anything that matters.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been talking a lot of trash, not only about the team, but just Columbia's a terrible city.
Just their
Columbia
state.
sucks,
and it's the armpit of the South. So
South Carolina. I mean, I got nothing against like South Carolina fans or anything like that, but to me, like, I've never really met anybody that went to South Carolina that was like, oh, South Carolina was my dream school growing up. It was always like
so now we're just taking shots everywhere here.
It's true. I mean, I've never met anybody that was like, oh, I just love Columbia, South Carolina so much, like I wanted to get there all of high school. It was like, well, like growing up in Tennessee, it was like, well, I didn't get into UT, or like, oh, I didn't get into Georgia, or like, oh, I got a better scholarship there than Auburn, or I don't know.
That's fair.
I feel like people kind of end up at South Carolina. People go to Georgia.
Jimmy just taking shots at everyone in the East week by week.
Yeah. Was that too mean?
No,
I think it's fair. I think
it's game week,
honest.
baby.
Yeah. And hell, it's game week. SEC opener.
Yeah, I'm pumped for this game. I think it's gonna be just an in the trenches, like punch in the mouth type
physical.
game.
Yeah.
Grind it out, and we're just gonna wear them down until they don't want to play anymore.
I think it's lucky that it's a 3:30 game. We've said that a couple times, but I think not having a night game there is huge.
That's fair.
I mean, I haven't been to every stadium or anything, but having been there, the game I went to was not a night game, but there was a rain delay, so it kind of turned into a night game on accident. It was a 3:30 game that ended up kicking off at like 6 o'clock.
Well, do they have re-entry? Because if you're in there,
I was gonna say everybody's sobered up.
There, can you go
I
back
don't
out?
know.
And
We
booze it up?
knew it was delayed before we went in, so we never went in until
There you
kickoff
go.
anyway. So we were tailgating the whole time and stuff. But it was rowdy. I mean, it was a really solid atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing because with the rain delay, you get that much more time for other people to literally fuel up on alcohol.
Well, that's what that's the advantage of a night game. That's the whole
thing of a night game
wink,
is the fans
wink of
have
a night game.
More time to
you're gassed up, ready to
indulge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, we saw a lot of interesting games week one. I mean, you got a lot of cupcake teams that come out, but taking a look at the games that took place in this first week, what was an SEC team that you came away with being the most surprised by, either positive or negative, in your opinion?
Mine would. I'll go with LSU just because. Yeah, I did not expect that to be. I thought Miami was going to win, and I definitely didn't expect it to just be. They
blowout.
killed them. It was 33-3 at one point, I think.
Did it get?
I don't know what the final score was, but. Yeah, and then the other one, the other obvious one is Auburn. I would say that I wasn't surprised by that. But
it wasn't I mean, it doesn't have to be a pretty win. There's no style points, but the Auburn win was a good win. As far as I did pick Washington to win that. Jimmy correctly said that the defensive line of Auburn would kind of be the big impact in that game. I think.
Yeah, I mean they're both. So now I guess it's later in the season that you get a full picture. Is Auburn's defense that good because Washington's offense is really good? And then it's like, how good is Auburn's offense, though, if they could only score 21 points on a Pac-12
kind of
defense?
Lighter defense, yep.
Yeah, so I think you could spin it whichever way, whether you're being pessimistic or optimistic, if you're an Auburn fan.
Yep. So I was going to say the same thing for my pick for most surprising SEC game for week one, being LSU versus Miami. LSU obviously looked very good out of the gate. I don't know, again, to Jimmy's point, I don't know if that was Miami being that bad or LSU being that dominant, at least defensively, because it seemed like LSU players were going through that offensive line at will. Now, granted, I don't think it was physical. It didn't look like LSU was blowing up the line and then getting to the quarterback. It was a lot of guys just running free right to the quarterback. So that was more mental, the communication piece.
Yeah.
So whereas I think LSU is talented, and obviously you can see if you make mistakes, they'll expose you and they can look good. But I don't know that Miami is necessarily that bad either. But it certainly didn't look good for Mark Richt.
And I don't think Miami has anywhere near the caliber of offensive line that we do. So I don't know how many parallels you can draw. I mean, looking forward to our game,
Sure.
I think that Auburn LSU game next weekend is going to.
That's going to be very
a really good game.
Big matchup.
Yeah.
Also, I think to LSU's point, which I think the turnout of the game did not favor us UGA because our tickets are not cheap now that they won. They would have lost to Miami. Jimmy and I could have got in for a little bit of a discount there when we have that game in week 7. But I also looking at LSU, I think their quarterback, the transfer from Ohio State, I think he was 10 for 31 for like 133 yards. Like it was actually not very efficient. He did what he had to do, but not efficient.
It's the same old LSU. I mean, they looked very impressive, especially if you look at the box score. But it's exactly like we said.
Yeah.
Very good defense, flying to the ball. Quarterback that they have high hopes for, underperforming.
Yeah. I mean,
they'll probably live and die by their running game.
Yeah.
And
to be
they
fair,
probably have a wide receiver that'll just go be a first-round pick and be amazing, even though he wasn't that good at LSU.
With great hair. Make a miraculous catch. To be fair, though, I did say that maybe some of our vanilla and we weren't necessarily clicking on offense was due to being it so early in the year. I'll give them some time to figure that out on their end as well, because they beat a top 10 team, looked explosive, albeit not all that efficient. But I'll give them some time to figure that out, and maybe that game come week 7 will be, college game day or something to that effect.
I could see that. I mean, if they beat Auburn, I would say
it's gonna be wild.
I would argue that whoever wins that game, their game against us has a very good chance to be college game day.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
We
got to win. We this week.
We got to keep winning. We got to keep doing what we're doing. But we're gonna, as long as we keep winning, we're gonna stay a top 5 team. And I don't see either of them losing before they play us, after they play each other.
Mm-hmm. When does LSU draw Bama? Do we know that?
I believe it's after us. Isn't it usually like the last week in October
prepared
or something?
The game of the century.
Yeah, I was saying this weekend before LSU came out and looked so good, but my prediction that I was saying was that I could see us and Auburn being the CBS night game that they get to do one time a year, because they're always the 3:30 kickoff, but one time a year they have an 8 p.m. kickoff, and it's been Alabama LSU the past like 7 years. So before LSU played, I was saying I don't think LSU is going to be that good this year. I think that Georgia Auburn is going to be the most intriguing matchup in the SEC, but now who knows? Now
I'd love to draw LSU at Baton Rouge at night. That would be
cool. I don't know
scary.
if they would. It would be scary. I don't know if they would do it that early in the season, because it seems
Week 7.
But they might even have some clause that they can't do it until like week 8 or 9 or so. It always seems to be. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that LSU and Alabama tend to play each other later in the year, or if they have to.
November 3rd is LSU Alabama.
Okay.
So yeah, after us.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's some rule about when they can use that 8 p.m. flex, but
we'll get David on that.
Maybe if Auburn beats LSU, then I could see us and Auburn being and we beat LSU.
The good thing is we are definitely getting the game. It just depends on which game we're getting. So
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
it just depends on which game that time slot is going to be for
I hope
us.
so.
We're definitely getting it now.
I mean, I would rather have it be Auburn, obviously, because that's a home game, and then I'd rather have
good point.
LSU not be a night game.
As far as experience, though, that'd be
Yeah,
fun.
it would be fun to be a fan in Death Valley at night. Fun and scary and terrifying.
a little
probably.
terrifying.
But
Yeah.
I mean, wishing for the best circumstances for the team.
Sure,
You're
no
probably
doubt.
rooting for a 2:30 Central Time.
No doubt.
Yeah. Well, I was honestly surprised by the Tennessee-West Virginia game because
I wasn't. What were you surprised by?
that they scored 14 points.
That's
I was
funny.
really shocked that they even got on the board. So
Yeah,
I gotta
that's
say,
fair.
Shout
I
out
can't-
Tennessee.
I think that West Virginia just got too comfortable and
Just let
didn't
one get
finish
by?
business. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really surprising me. But I will say, and this is obviously outside the SEC, but you guys asked what I thought was going to happen with Michigan and Notre Dame, and I thought that it was going to be much, much closer than it was. I was really impressed by Notre Dame's play. I mean, they were throwing the ball all over the field, so that was really exciting for me to watch.
We
And then-
both look good, yeah.
yeah, so I was pleasantly surprised by that, but I was also very excited to see Penn State almost lose to App State.
that was
That I
hilarious.
was
Yeah.
praying for.
We were
That was the biggest
definitely on.
drama.
And that
That was
happening.
11 years to the day.
Yep.
It was the
That would've
exact day.
probably gone a long way to solidifying our pick of who's going to drop out and finish the
I
season
think,
unranked.
I think
yes.
Will and I both
Yeah,
had
sure.
that pick, so
Penn
that's
State.
looking like a decent pick so far.
So
Again, the number 10 team, but you know.
Which in App State, I will say they did take Tennessee to the wire in 2016, and then Tennessee kind of found their footing, and then it kind of the wheels fell off later in the year. But Tennessee, I'm not even trying to make fun of them. They did.
I am.
App State did play them really close on a Thursday night game to start Dobbs' senior season in 2016, and then I think they got ranked as high as like number 7 before they lost to Texas A&M, I believe.
Wow.
And then it was kind of a mess after that.
the glory years.
Mm-hmm. The glory year, the glory month.
Year. Oh,
for
sorry. Yeah,
Tennessee.
So,
yeah that was a fun game, though. That was exciting.
yeah. So what games outside of UGA's and South Carolina's matchup are you most looking forward to this week?
I think hands down, Clemson goes to Texas A&M.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good game. I'm curious. I should have looked this up, but when was the last time you think, outside when they go to like a D2 school or Army Navy, College Game Day was not a ranked matchup? Because Texas A&M isn't ranked.
Oh, you mean both teams being ranked?
Well, yeah, both of them being ranked.
Oh, I
It's
don't know.
kind- I
I
understand.
bet there was a game last year. I bet it was as easy as early as last year that
You
both
think?
weren't ranked.
It just seems like it's pretty every week. Pretty much there
I
seems to
don't
be
know
a
the
ranked
answer to
match.
that.
I don't
But
know either.
if you can't answer that, and you're the first one to comment on this video on Facebook, we will give you I don't know, what do we got to give away over there? What's our intern got?
An Inwigo
What's that?
koozie
We'll give you an Inwigo koozie. Thank you, intern. We'll give you the Inwigo
and
koozie.
sunglasses.
and sunglasses
oh,
and a
thank you.
sticker for your laptop.
If you
we
can
have
tell
swag
us-
from Inwigo.
If you can be the first to comment after you listen to this and watch this, who was or what
On
was
any platform, Spotify, iTunes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Leave us a review.
We keep track of them all.
You have some Inwigo swag waiting for you.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to the UCLA Oklahoma game. I think Oklahoma's going to kill them, but I think that
Chip Kelly can let
that
him.
was- yeah, it's kind of
let it get out of hand?
if a couple of years from now, I think that'd be a really exciting matchup. I don't think Chip Kelly
Yeah.
has enough to work with right now, so it's probably not going to be that good of a game. But that to me, that's at least it's a cross conference,
That's
like
fair.
2 true Power 5.
How about USC at Stanford?
Yeah, that's what I was about to
Also,
say.
well,
I mean,
and right below that on Will's computer, I see Sacramento State playing San Diego State. That's
State. So
both
that
my
was-
parents' alma mater.
There you
Sacramento
go.
State's go Hornets.
which jersey are you going to pick to wear that day?
I'm gonna wear a split jersey between Georgia and Sac State.
Go
there you
Sacs.
go. Yeah, that's a good call. But as far as USC and Stanford is concerned, I mean, again, this doesn't affect a lot of people, in the SEC for a while at least. I don't think any of these teams are going to have a real serious run. But that being said, as a Notre Dame fan, this has implications for their season as well. I mean, and you just hate both these teams.
Yeah, Notre Dame's got to play them both, so it's like
it's kind of fun. Well,
it's kind of a wash in their strength of schedule, right? One's going to move up, one's going to move down.
That's true, but I will say it's hard because you look at them and you hate them both.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be like, well, I can't.
I'll root for Stanford in that one. My grandfather went to UCLA, and my dad's a big UCLA fan outside Georgia, so I got Bruin blood.
Family note: Jimmy knows everybody in every state, or someone in every state.
My family's from the West Coast, so I have a lot of connections over there. But my grandfather did go to UCLA, and I kind of grew up rooting for them. So I don't think I have it in me to root for Southern Cal.
I also think Penn State at Pittsburgh is a big one to keep
your eye on. I was just about to say
Granted,
that.
Penn State might have a fire under their ass now after coming that close to being
Pitt
embarrassed.
Beat Penn State?
They did.
A couple years ago?
Was it a couple years ago or last year?
Yeah.
They kept them out of the was it the Big Ten championship or the?
No, because that's not a conference game, but it might have kept them out of the...
Okay, yep. So
I mean, it's not going to get any easier for Penn State from here on out. So
yeah, Penn State.
They are going to need to get this one.
Yeah, they need to get it right. I mean, I like to say that I guess style points don't matter, but in the past, the College Football Committee has definitely looked at how you won or how you've lost. How big, where, whom. It could come into play for them down the road for sure.
Yeah, and I don't even know how much of it is like, how good of a chance do they have to really be that good if they struggled that much with App State?
I mean, you can say
so
that.
It's not even like being like, oh, we're going to run the table, but that's going to hurt us. It's how good are we? If I'm a Penn State fan.
They have all the chances because they play all the teams to get there. They play Ohio State, Michigan, so they have the chance to recover. Because, I mean, look back at a couple of the teams that come to mind. Just Alabama 2009, they beat Tennessee by 2 points, and Tennessee missed 3 field goals, 9 points on the board.
Yeah.
Auburn beat Kentucky, I think, by 1 or 2 in 2010.
Yeah,
so I mean,
17-14
it's just unranked.
something.
I mean, granted, those are BCS title games, but like people, you don't have to always win big. You have other chances.
I totally agree with that. If they run the
up.
table, everything's still in front of them. I guess I'm saying if I were a Penn State fan, I would be closer to panic mode.
Concerned,
oh my
sure.
gosh, like we're probably not nearly the team we thought we were. Than I would be to it's fine. All we need to do is run the table. Like we still,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, compared to what Ohio State looked like versus actual FBS opponent
Ohio
without
State
Urban.
Did look good.
I mean, yeah, Ohio State. I mean, that to me just headline of like, I guess what would you say? Just take care of business. I don't know. We're ready. We don't care.
Us against the world type thing. So
like,
it's cool that Ohio. Not that Oregon State's like a marquee game or anything, but Ohio State is playing Oregon State and Texas Christian this year. So they've got an out of conference against the Big 12 and the Pac-12 in 1 year.
There you go.
I think that's pretty neat.
We're getting toward there though. I don't know if y'all saw recently,
we're scheduling.
But Georgia actually scheduled in the future. We got Clemson and Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon and the Chick-fil-A.
And we also have UCLA.
Talking to Texas
in
the late 20s.
And then we have Notre Dame next year. So, I mean, we're gearing it up, man.
We got Virginia, I think, in like 2020. No one cares about that.
Fine.
The game's lame.
I don't know. That's fun, though. I like to see that.
I mean, I want the sexy matchups. I want the big brands to come here and us to go there,
For not only entertainment purposes, but also for, obviously, recruiting and things like that.
Oh, yeah. Kirby getting everybody.
Yeah.
It's fun to go. Like, we live in Atlanta, so it's easy to go to the Chick-fil-A game, but I wouldn't mind if we were playing in, like, I think the Dallas game would be fun. I'd go to see Dallas to watch Georgia play.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, again, we appreciate you guys sticking with us through this episode. It's been a lot of fun talking UGA football here and what's going to be coming through in the weeks to come. But I do want to, again, extend a thank you to all of our listeners and viewers. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and share. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, and I think that covers it, right? Mm-hmm. So be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out In We Go. But from all of us here, we want to say thanks for joining us, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.